Greetings, webheads, and welcome to episode 21 of Witty Banter, yet another Marvel Crisis Protocol podcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Alex.
I'm Billy's grandpa.
We are here to help you get better at and have more fun with your Crisis Protocol. Little bit of behind the scenes. This is the second time we are recording episode 21. We had a little bit of a technical glitch with our first one, so we apologize for the length of time this is getting out, but this should be even more super polished and absolutely professional than what our normal podcasts are like. So you guys are in for a treat. Congratulations. What our intent to do today is to talk about basically the new hotness, talk about how some of the new stuff has played. We've all had a chance to kind of try out some of the new stuff, the monsters, Mephisto, Apocalypse. We've seen some Abomination on the table. So we thought, let's take a look and just kind of take some first impressions now that we've actually gotten these things on the table and see how they play. We just participated in Brawlhalla, a local tournament. Alex, David, do you guys want to talk a little bit about that tournament?
Yeah, I thought it went really well. We had, when it was all said and done, 17 people signed up for it. No real issues when it came to like judge calls. It was a pretty clean day. Interestingly enough, we had a good mix of affiliations. We didn't have one that really stuck out as like an overwhelming number, but I guess if you look at the numbers, 3 out of 17, that's pretty high, I guess, statistically. That was Apocalypse, but overall, I think it went really well.
Yeah, I think so too. And it was nice to do as a whole charity thing. The venue was really nice.
Yeah, why don't you, David, why don't you kind of describe sort of the thought process behind it and the venue and kind of what was all behind all that?
So I figured that since it was close to Veterans Day, I would see if we can organize an event at my VFW Legion, and because they have space and they have a bar and and alcohol, great.
Yeah.
So we set it up, and I mean, it went. Alex is a great organizer. It went well. We didn't have any issues with like tables or like space. We had alcohol, like good. No like ambiguous calls or weird situations came up. We did have 2 4-0s though, but that was just because we only played 4 rounds. And then a veteran did actually win the whole thing, which is pretty good.
That's very good.
So I mean, there's
And
that.
this-
And he won. Bob won with Defenders, right? Yeah, he played Defenders.
Yeah, Bob won with Defenders. JP was second place with Apocalypse.
And then I played an all veterans roster as the ringer. So I played 3 games. Yeah, I played 3 games.
And this won't be the last. I think we're going to go back to that venue and be hosting other events there. So we'll post some of the pictures from the event on our social so you can kind of get a chance to see how it looked. And if you're in the Omaha area or within a drivable distance, keep an eye out, and we'll be having some other events there too. Seamlessly transitioning into our topic, JP, you were playing Apocalypse at the tournament, is that right?
Yeah, I brought the big A.
So I know you and Alex have both kind of been working on Apocalypse rosters. Let's my thought process is let's go ahead and just run down real quick the rosters that you've been playing, and then we'll take each of the leaderships and sort of talk through what we've seen, what you guys have learned with some games on the table, and what your thought processes are now that you've seen them play, and what you're looking forward to trying. So, JP, let's start with you. What's your apocalypse list look like?
Well, my apocalypse list is in a constant state of flux since I have not really pinned it down, and I haven't gotten a tremendous amount of reps with it. I've probably got like maybe 10. Well, I played 2 more games. I probably have like 10, maybe 12 games with it now. So my most recent list I haven't even actually played, but I can read it off. I got Apoc, Colossus, Psylocke, Toad, Honey Badger, Okoye, Blob, Deadpool, Magik, Cassandra Nova. And then I'm just playing a lot of fairly predictable tactics cards, I guess. Nothing really sticks out there. I won't read them. And then my secures and extracts, they're kind of predictable, but I went for the 19 and 20 threats. So I'm playing Demons Intrusions, which I think they're kind of predictable. But then I'm running Superpower Scoundrels, and then I've got Virus and Scrolls, and then I've got Senators. So I've got 4 19s and 2 20s.
Okay. And we'll get into kind of break down some of the thought process behind all of those. Alex, I know you've been playing some Apocalypse too. What's your experience been, or what are you looking at running with the big A?
So far, the experience has been really good. Looking at all the models and the affiliation, like with the horseman powers, it gives you a lot of flexibility with the roster itself or the affiliation itself. Because there are some affiliations I feel are more attrition based, others that are more scoring based. This one I feel gives a lot of options. It may seem as though Apocalypse is more attrition, but I can see the affiliation playing as scoring as well. So that's just kind of the feel I've had with it. I think this is my 4th or 5th iteration of the list with just small tweaks here and there. I'll eat my words for 2 situations. I put Blob back in the list, and I'm choosing to play Cassandra Nova to give her a shot. So, eating my words on that part to it, but it's very similar to what JP has. The only difference is, aside from tactics cards, because that's always just depending on really what models you're taking into, just a feel for the list itself. But I do not have Okoye. I have Wolverine instead. And instead of Magik, I have Iceman still. And then Crisis, we only have 2 different crises. One is he has Scoundrels, I have Fisk. And the other one is Senators and Montesi. I have Montesi, he has Senators.
Okay. So let's dojo this a little bit and just kind of go through how that list came to be. JP, start with your thought process with some of the characters that you've put on the list. Kind of what's the rationale behind different characters that you've put in?
Well, aside from Apocalypse, obviously, Colossus is, I think, objectively just the best Pestilence. He's
Okay.
a medium mover, so he can get around pretty far, and he can entrench himself in an enemy line and be within 2 of a lot of characters and just Pestilence bomb them, and then be around for subsequent turns to just taunt and be annoying.
Okay.
And then Psylocke is, I think she's kind of the quintessential death in the list. She's just she can go psycho with like the triple reroll with her own rerolls, and then the superpower to add 3 dice after the first attack. She can like 2-shot a lot of models and then get refunded for dazing stuff and KOing stuff.
Speaking of the
The
refunding with
oh,
Colossus, I was thinking I do like the idea of like if you're full of evolution tokens in Colossus activation to maybe spend some of them to like re-roll his attack dice so that you can because you know you're going to generate some from his pestilence.
yeah.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Obviously, with exceptions, like if my opponent somehow gets 6 blocks, I'm not going to reroll any dice, but I digress.
Yeah, we can talk about that token stuff a little later. It's an interesting aspect of playing the list that's kind of unique. Toad and Honey Badger. I mean, when you have 2 affiliated 2s, I think that's pretty damn good. And
It is
since
really
APOC costs 6, like the 2s are, I put them at a high premium. And like Toad is best in class, and Honey Badger is kind of maligned, but I think she's really fucking good in this list.
Yeah, I think this is her home. I don't think she's really going to get much out of X Force. And is she an E Force?
No, I don't think she
no.
I
is.
don't think so.
No? Okay. Well, I was just curious. I couldn't
She's just
remember if she was or not. But X-Men
she's
and
what
X-Force just aren't that
and
great
Weapon
for
X.
her, in my opinion. This affiliation really feels
She's
like
in
her
Weapon
home.
X also.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that's even an affiliation,
All the
but,
X
you
stuff.
know.
It's
She's in
one of
Triple
those.
X. She's underage. What's going on? Weird.
So, so talk a little bit about why you think Honey Badger has such a good home with Apocalypse.
Well, she has taunt. So between her and Colossus, you can set up these kind of weird taunt field puzzles for your opponent, where it makes it really hard to attack Apocalypse. And she has that pseudo incinerate, the ankle biter.
Mm-hmm.
So
Incinerate.
it makes like you basically get an auto incinerate on a target like very very quickly. A lot of a play pattern I found myself uh repeating a lot in the tournament and like any basically just playing the list is I'll save APOC for a very late activation. I'll move Honey Badger up later in the first round to like the middle point, and if it's demons, I'm not going to be on it, but if it's something else, I'll just sit right on top of it. So if anyone wants to contest, they'll be within 1 of her and be at -1, and then I'll do the famine hop with APOC and double tap somebody on midline, and they'll be at -1 die on round 1. And I have a good chance of dazing stuff, and it just powers the APOC up. So,
You can
I
blow
just
rerolls too, especially if it's the last. Like if it's the last activation with Apocalypse.
you're just typically not having a lot of tokens on round 1, in my experience at least. I haven't been able to have a lot of them. Like famine will like go move, do something, and with outside of 3, gain a token. You'll have 2. APOC will use 1 to port up along with his 1 power. You'll have 1 left. I mean, unless you get a good pestilence bomb, which in my brain I was having like these dreams of pestilence bombs before I started playing the list, but I actually haven't had a lot of games where I've just been able to uncork with them. But that might have been kind of like a matchup thing and a map thing. I did
Yeah,
have
I've only had it happen like 2 or 3 times on round 1 or 2, and then usually Pestilence tends to fizzle out after that.
And I'm curious,
yeah,
guys, have you guys played any games on Researcher just
no.
to see?
No.
Because I would be curious what the like you could set up some pestilence bombs, I think, easily with Researcher, right?
I mean that would be the spot to do it, right? Like researcher and then
Yeah.
one of yours like if it's researcher demons or something, obviously it's going to be I mean they're not going to the flanks with any characters to grab something. It's just everyone's kind of probably going to be up in the middle, maybe not on points, but near enough where you can get a medium base within range 2 of a lot of characters.
Well, we'll bouncing around a little
That's
bit.
something I was thinking.
Bounce around a little bit then. So I know you kind of talked about the tactics cards being pretty generic. Have you found
Real
that?
quick, Patrick, I am so sorry. I want to go back to Honey Badger just a little bit.
Yeah, No, please do.
Um,
The more I can
everything
get you,
JP. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, the more I can get you talking about how great Honey Badger is, the happier I am.
That's fair. That's fair. Um, Honey Badger, I feel, gets more benefit, and she does more in Apocalypse than she does her other affiliations. The other affiliations, like, I is do we even talk about her in X-Men? Like, I don't even think she even really sees the light of day in X-Men ever.
I
But with
mean,
X
Magic Nick
Force,
will tell you that he's the best, or that she's the best thing since sliced bread. So,
well, he's wrong. But we'll
I mean,
just move on from there.
I knew you were gonna say that.
X Force, and Weapon X though, like they're supposed to be super efficient and kick your dick in, and she helps there. Don't get me wrong, but like she just dies, which again I understand that's mostly her job, and then anything on top of that, it's just icing on the cake for her. But with Apocalypse, one, he helps with her dice consistency issues. There's a lot of opportunities for rerolls in the affiliation, and X Force and Weapon X give a couple, but it's not as much as what Apocalypse can give. And then she benefits Apocalypse with the taunts and just her horseman mechanic, both horsemen that she can be. She gives affiliation tokens for being a target. Or not affiliation, but evolution tokens. You punch her, she gets tokens. You daze or KO her, she gets tokens.
well, and she's expendable because you're not losing the horseman power if she goes down, right? So,
Right.
I mean, you kind of care if she dies, but it's not that important. Like, it's not. You're not going to lose the game if freaking Honey Badger dies.
Right.
Plus,
Right.
plus you've got your opponent spending time worrying about a 2 threat.
Right, exactly. So it's like I knew that was the main benefit for her when she first came out. Like that was her main job, but being an Apocalypse, the reroll she gets helps with her dice consistency. She's doing what she's supposed to be doing, and then on top of it, as she either gets dazed or KO'd or takes damage and does damage, she's helping the rest of the affiliation by giving rerolls.
She also can just hit better with death and war superpowers along with the rerolls.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I find that my
absolutely.
Honey Badger is usually swimming in a lot of power. So it doesn't she really doesn't have anything to spend her power on besides taunt. Like she can spend her, but it's the same dice pool as her strike. So unless you're trying to reposition her, which is, I mean, it can be very useful as a taunter, but usually, I mean, if she's within range 2 of something to punch it, like she's in range 2 to taunt it, so she doesn't necessarily want to move. I have used the spender a couple times, but being able to use those superpowers is just a great outlet for her power.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's walk through let's walk through your thoughts on the rest of your list, kind of why they're there and what you're getting from them. And Alex, where your list diverges, maybe you can kind of talk about what your thoughts are for those models. So JP, who else have you gotten, and let's go through why you've got them there.
Okay. I've got Blob. He
I've got Blob too.
he is probably the second tankiest character in the list outside of Colossus. He's a 3 threat with 6 health on each side, damage reduction, and just his
But yeah,
just his push. The push on his damage reduction superpower is it is sneakily pseudo damage reduction. Like when you push people, I mean, even if they are still within range, you've probably pushed them off the point. So if they want to be back on the point to contest, they're gonna have to use a move action. Or sometimes you can just push them out of attack range and they have to move or attack somebody else. So I like Blob quite a bit. And then Deadpool. He is probably I think Blob is probably better as Famine, but I don't mind him as a discount Pestilence. If the points aren't working to take Colossus, he's not as fast, which kind of sucks, but he doesn't mind getting up in the mix, and he can be just that Pestilence guy. Like Toad can be Pest, but he's gonna get squashed pretty quick if he's around a bunch of people bombing him. You can hop in and out, but Blob is just kind of there in your face, and he just sits there. I think Deadpool is probably the best Famine, though. That's kind of why he's in the list, and I think he's a fine war. I don't really love him as war, but he can fill that spot and just kind of be the rider, so that you can get the war superpower. And then Magik. Magik is one that I just put back in the list. I had her in my original one, never put her on the table, took her out, and then she's back again. I think she's the best 3-threat war. If you just like goldfish some dice rolls with her to see what she can do with the war superpower, it's kind of gross. Like 5 dice with mod blanks and shields to hits for each crit and wild you get, and you get rerolls and a wild pierce. Like she's probably getting like an average of 4 successes or so, and you're like getting pierce on a lot of those attacks.
Yeah, that's about the average. Mine was too. It's about 4 successes with a pierce.
And then Cassandra Nova is another one where I haven't played her yet, and actually I'd never had her in any iteration of the list because I'm really shy about the 5 threats in this list, because my personal conclusion is that I want all 4 riders every game if I can. Like I don't think I'm ever gonna cut a rider.
Have you guys played any games without all 4 riders
No,
or horsemen?
I have not.
Nope, I refuse to do it because I'm in the same boat as JP. You got to have all 4 riders because Apocalypse, like everything about his character, takes into consideration those horseman powers too.
Yeah,
That makes
I
me
think
curious if the rationale to avoid the 15 threat crisis so that you don't end up without all of the horsemen is something to consider.
I mean that's why I picked my Secures and the X-Rex the way I did, because I'm at 419s and 220s.
So
I mean,
some
that
of
was
the
something I had theorized before, like when all the APOC stuff came out. I kind of thought that maybe this was going to venture, because like I feel like Apocalypse would play really well on Gamma, but maybe it's not worth the risk of playing on 15.
Yeah, I mean, his ideal map, I think, is probably an E. Just because you can set up really good pest bombs. I haven't had a chance to thoroughly test it against like heavy attrition lists who really lean toward E's as well, but I feel like when you can like double pest bomb with Colossus and APOC round 1 to poison and root like their entire team, it's gonna be
Really good. That's
kind of a
really
hole to climb out of after turn 1 or round 1. So I don't know. I guess I'm kind of talking out of my ass because I haven't really put in a lot of reps with there, but I do think he likes E's a lot. The pest bombs get gross.
well, and it sounds. I mean, he can't stand on the very midpoint and punch both, can he?
Punch both what?
He can't stand on the middle of an E and punch both the other 2 E's, can he?
Yeah, I think he can.
I mean, that's like fantastic.
I think he can.
Yeah, he can do
They
it on.
probably have to be on
He
the
can do it on
inside, though,
scoundrels
right?
too.
They probably have to be on the inside, though, right? For like an E, they can't be on the backside of it.
Yeah, they'd have to be on the they'd have to be on the
Unless,
front
of
of their
course,
E, but
I mean,
like
that's positioning with APOC, right? Like if you position APOC ahead of the midpoint, you can ensure that you're going to get anybody on that back point if you want.
yeah. I mean, I don't think they. I mean, it's kind of suicidal to deep dive somebody on Gamma early in the game anyway.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
I don't think anyone's going to be taking your back one to where you'd have to worry about
No,
having to
definitely not.
cover
Yeah,
it.
so that's why you could probably position early to be ahead of that.
Yeah.
Alex, you had some models that were a little different. I know you mentioned Iceman. You want to just give some thoughts in terms of what your thought process were behind some of those choices?
So yeah, the two differences that I have in my roster from JP's, I have Iceman instead of Magik. I just like Iceman. He's got the pivot on D's as long as he's spamming, and he's okay without spamming. Like I've been trying to play him as death, but I just had almost no success with him as death. So I think he's strictly there for a 3-threat famine. But I'm
The damage output
also
is
on the
like
fence.
on the lower end,
Yeah,
so kind of, and he doesn't. He also doesn't like. He doesn't have the ability to like push power to damage as opposed to like some other characters do. Like his
right.
push power to stuff is like, oh, I can stagger and I can run away. Cool. That
Yeah.
doesn't really help you much with that.
No, I agree. And I mean, he's got the cold snap, and I mean, I could see how that could help with damage output, but it's just not the same.
It can be randomly
But
funny. Kill somebody and get some
yeah.
death tokens off the cold snap.
I
But
like Iceman as
I
I like Iceman as famine, but I just
agreed.
haven't been seeing a lot of D's. So
Yeah,
he's
agreed,
out
agreed. That's
he's out for
why
me for now.
I'm kind of
That
on
was
the
my
fence
other.
about him
Have you
too.
guys played on an indies?
No, that's the thing.
I have not.
So you haven't played on indies, and you haven't. Have you guys played into any like what we would consider like fast scoring teams, like webs?
I played into
No.
Kingpin. But
Oh yeah, I guess.
How's that
Yeah, I
feel?
forgot.
he brought a funky squad, so I was actually wider than he was.
Well, that's weird. Wider
That
than
is weird.
Kingpin.
Yeah, he brought Kingpin. What did he bring? Kingpin. He brought Abomination, MODOK 2, Cat, and drawing a
I don't
blank
even
on the
know
other one. Maybe
who
Rhino. I
Cat against. Do
think
you
it might have
even
been
bring
Rhino.
Cat in the Apocalypse? Is that like a thing you do? I mean, I guess staggering Apocalypse
Staggering Healthy
early.
Apocalypse is alright.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're like you're never going to do damage to him, so you're just giving him free power because he's healing the damage, and like
Yeah, that's true.
it just
So
seems
my
well, and like she does not want to get any of those fucking conditions that he can hand out. Like she don't want none of it. She don't want root. She don't want poison. She don't want none of it.
slow. She doesn't want any of those.
Yeah, yeah. Like it might that might be enough to scare actually bringing her into Apocalypse. I'm not sure if it's one of those things. I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
So you haven't had a chance to play on a wider scenario yet. What's your plan if and when that happens? How are you anticipating handling that?
Ooh, well, I guess it really just depends on what the scenarios are. In my case, because JP, you've had a little bit more experience with wider scenarios because you have them, but I that's something I'm definitely gonna have to practice with. And if that's the situation, I mean, I got Psylocke for death, so she's super quick. She can pivot a little quicker when it comes to the spread out scenarios. Um, and then like with bees, I think she's really good on bees, being able to pivot pretty quick there too. But like Deadpool will be there for D's and B's as well as famine, because
Yeah,
as
I do
famine
like
he's a
him
little bit
porting
quicker.
up. I do like him porting up, double shooting, and then porting back on
Yep,
Tito's point. That's a
yep,
good plan.
exactly.
And especially because you can make sure that you're out of 3 to get your token, which
Yep.
is pretty cool.
Yup.
You could do it in
Yeah,
either
I guess.
order, right? Like you could place up with the superpower and then leg day back once you have the power, or you could leg day and then do it going back. It doesn't really mean
Yep,
anything,
yep.
which is pretty good. I do
Yeah,
like
super good. He's super quick with it. And then for large number, like wider scenarios, like faster score. I mean, I play with Apocalypse with at least 5 models every game, so I'm not necessarily super worried about that personally. I've been able to catch up to Kingpin Corey teams super quick with 5 models, so I'm not worried about it. And it's mainly because those 5 models are gonna kick you pretty hard by the time it gets to a turn where they need to catch up.
I'm curious with wide webs. That that's a curious matchup. Even though I think Apocalypse is just good into webs in general, but I'm curious to kind of see what it's like.
JP, how about you? What's your plan if you're having to spread yourself out?
I think I'm. It depends. So if there's a D, it's probably going to be webs or hellfire.
Right.
In the webs, I'm definitely bringing Psylocke. I'm not sure about hellfire. Hellfire is going to have probably more displacement that I'm worried about. Webs will have like a lot of impact webbings. They'll have like they might run Gwen for the pull, and then like maybe Spectacular for size 3 throw. And I guess Miles has a size 3 throw trigger on his wild on his strike, but I mean I have a decent amount of size 3s to be immune to impact webbing. I probably run
Blob
Blob.
is straight
He's
immune to like all the webbles.
yeah. I probably run Blob because he's just he's kind of immobile, but I'd probably just sit him on a point and try to activate him later in the round.
Well, and he can't be moved by webs either, right?
I mean he can't be thrown by Miles on the attack, but he can be pushed or thrown by superpowers.
Hmm.
But he makes it so that they can't really attack him a lot, or he's just going to push him away, and he can move back on the point.
Yeah, no one.
I run Toad for sure. 2 threat lets me go wider. Probably running a Colossus.
Oh,
It's probably going to be like kind of a janky like Mystique Brotherhood lineup. Where I'm running like Colossus, Toad, Blob, Apoc, and like probably a fifth character. What is that? Apoc Colossus is 10, Blob's 13, Toad
Psylocke.
15.
Yeah,
So
19.
at 20 I could go Okoye and then a 3.
Or Nova if you wanted to, depending on the situation.
Yeah.
But
Or
if you're
Not
doing
for
playing
nothing.
against story webs,
I actually like Nova into webs, right? I mean, like
yeah.
root and slow is just brutal to them.
She's not bad. I do like Nova. I
give
did
you
add
three
her.
ways to give you 3 ways to give them 2 conditions they absolutely hate.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't like slow for the rotation. It's
Well,
something
and I appreciate
worth
that
considering.
Apocalypse isn't being too webbed up on his inner side too.
Yeah.
That's true. So, Alex, JP, both of you said that you've had some shifting in your rosters. Who have been some of the models that you've dropped, and why did you drop them?
I did have one more character that was different from JP's roster.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
If we want to talk about that real quick.
Yeah, let's do that first.
Okay. Yeah. I have Wolverine instead of Okoye.
That's right.
Honestly, Wolverine is there for 2 reasons. The actual practical reason for because of being in the roster, I have Fisk. He's immune to stun. He's really good on Fisk for that reason specifically.
Okay.
The other reason is I just have a soft spot for Wolverine. I don't think I'll ever drop him, even if he's the worst model in the affiliation, because the Age of Apocalypse I grew up with, he was the Horseman of Death, and I have to have him in it.
Well,
You
and
can-
I think if you're taking Colossus and you're taking him, I mean, fastball special is worth.
Yep.
Is
Oh,
worth
it's well, in one of the first games I played with it KO or dazed Chuck just with one throw.
good.
That feels right.
Yeah. So I mean, there's just so many options he brings to it, but I can see why people are hesitant on him. But very similar to Honey Badger, like situation with her dice consistency. His isn't that great, and if you can just double or triple stack it with rerolls, and if you have him as war, converting dice on top of wild counting as two, it just is stack on stack on stack. So I think
Well, and
this is a better home for
he
him.
can get pretty stupid damage output wise on his injured side too.
Oh yeah, Travis learned that the hard way Friday. He left an injured Wolverine with 2 health left, and was able to bust Abomination with 2 11 dice spenders.
Ouch.
And
So,
then next
go ahead.
turn, oh yeah, next turn he had Wolverine with 2 health or with 2 damage on him, and rolled 2 7 dice builders and KO'd Abomination right away.
Yep, I was there
As you
for that.
do.
That was that was
Mm.
that was a game of Marvel.
Yeah.
Might I add, it was also
Let's go
included a
after him.
recal reroll
Yeah.
from Abomination.
So
Okay.
to explain the other two picks, the
Mhm.
last ones so Cassandra Nova, she is basically the list lacks control. There's not a lot of
Mhm.
models that actually move other people. You've got a push on Toad. You've got a throw on Apoc if they have root and shock, and you have Blob
Mhm.
that can push on his strikes and push on a superpower when he prevents damage. And there's Beast, who has a superpower throw, size 2. I
Wolverine's
think
spender,
Gambit might push. Gambit does push. What do you say?
Yeah, Gambit pushes.
Wolverine spender throws, right?
Yeah, Wolverine spender throws. It's just so it's attached to a spender. It's just
Yeah,
it's fine. It's
hard
fine.
use. Yeah.
I don't hate
No,
it,
you're
but
right.
it's just like the list doesn't have a lot of good control. Cassandra Nova brings like guaranteed control,
Yeah.
and I think
Advanced people
her
to
being
speed is
famine,
stupid.
her being famine is
Yeah.
like it's just really good. It lets her play with her range bands a lot better. She can hop in or out depending on the board state and either set up for an alpha strike or get away. And the fact that she has access to rerolls from the horseman token or the evolution tokens makes it so that her power building is more consistent. And I think famine helps that as well. Like she's outside of range 4 of something, she has to move and hit it normally. Whereas here she can hop, double punch at range 4, gen more power with rerolls to get more wilds and more damage for more power. You can stack Cassandra Nova power pretty easily in theory. And I figured out that with famine, if you have a bunch of mid grabs, if you're playing on something like virus or ships, or even something like intrusions, or I guess something where it's heavily contested like researcher, she can famine hop forward with a power and the initial token you start with and double tap. And that's for Deadpool too. Or Magik, I suppose, but I don't think I'd ever play Magik as famine. But Deadpool getting double tap round 1 or Cassandra Nova is pretty good. And then my last one was Okoye.
Well,
Oh,
The
go
other
ahead.
thing you could do, I was thinking about with Cassandra Nova was, say somebody has their own mid grab, like say they have a Namor. I'm pretty sure you can walk, famine hop, hit Namor, and walk him back.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't. It doesn't. She doesn't reach that far.
No,
She
she doesn't
doesn't
have enough
transfer.
power. There's no power.
Her thing is one, right?
Yeah, so Famine Hop and her 1 power spends.
Well,
There's
you'd have to have
her,
two.
you'd have to have 2 tokens. Yeah.
You'd have to have 2 tokens, but you could do it.
Um, I guess maybe if like War goes before and hits something, but then you don't have power for. Well, I guess it depends on if you walk them back and they're within range 3 of Cassandra once you walk them back. But I don't think there's a way to do that and not have them within range 3. So now you're not getting the token from her. And then Apoc isn't getting the token, or he doesn't have a token to spend with his 1 power to hop himself. So it kind of, I think the chain falls apart pretty quick. I like the idea, but
I am
I
wondering if
don't think
there's
it's easy to pull off. And it
kidnap somebody and make that feasible. I don't know.
maybe,
Possible.
maybe. And then Okoye was my 10th, so it doubles down on the 2 threats. Like it already has 2, add a third. And it doubles down on like the bodyguard shenanigans too. You got 2 taunters and a bodyguard. And it allows the list to go 6 wide, which, like going 6 wide with a normal Apocalypse list, I don't know if it's that attractive because you don't get a rider. You just get like one of your dipshits as a 6th body. But like I think you could argue that Okoye's a best in slot too, like in the right lists. So I definitely think she is here. She's not like an every game piece, but she's really, really good.
I can see the argument, and it has convinced me a little bit that Okoye would be worth splashing. I am not going to do it personally, I don't think, but
I
we'll
think it
see.
might give you some protection into certain kinds of rosters,
Oh
especially
yeah,
the heavy attrition ones that want to like pop somebody's activation
yeah.
and
Yeah,
having her be able to take those hits so you
Yeah.
don't lose an activation.
I've also considered Wong there, just as a heal bot later.
Yeah.
Like healing
Fine,
Colossus and
you-
APOC is just so annoying. And
Well, and you could do
him,
the power thing too, right?
yeah, you can enable like Psylocke to like move charge, hit for 7 on the first round.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
yeah, but I think, yeah, JP, I think the only differences between our lists are I have Wolverine, you have Okoye, and I have Iceman, you have Magik. Because I put Cassandra Nova in my list because of the reasons you did. And I
Yeah,
dropped Beast for her.
I dropped
Have you
Wolverine
guys
for.
messed around with any of the other horsemen? Like you messed around with Sabretooth and Cable and what else is what's the random
No,
horseman? Sinister.
no.
I played with
I
Sinister a little bit. I dropped him for Blob. They're the same horseman, and I needed another 3.
Yeah, Sinister's 4 threat. I think gets a little weird.
the
Like
4
I'm
threats in
not
general.
sure. Yeah, where you want to be
That's
because
why
you're
I dropped
probably
Wolverine.
bringing. I mean, you're probably bringing Psylocke and Colossus, right? So like, you've already got force tied up there, and you're
Mhm.
wanting to play them. So like, having other 4s as other horsemen just kind of like, why am I bringing these guys? Because you probably aren't going to play them.
The problem is playing 3/4s, right? Because
Yeah, that's it.
it's not. So even if you end up on 20, would be ideal, right? Because then you could bring a 2. You're
Mhm.
probably bringing. I mean, it depends. If you bring Honey Badger, then so say you have Colossus, Wolverine, Psylocke, Honey Badger. Well, your Colossus is going to be your Pestilence, and then you have a
It doesn't
problem, right?
work.
Because then Psylocke has to be Famine, which is not great. It's fine,
Yeah, I don't like it.
but Wolverine would have to be Death or War, and then Honey Badger would have to be the opposite. Or you could bring Toad, but then he takes Pestilence I guess he could be death, but then you got the issue with Psylocke has to be famine no matter what in that. Which
Yeah.
like I'm bringing Psylocke as like the number one death. I mean Wolverine can do it fine, but I don't know. I'm just kind of partial to her being death.
Well,
You could
and Psylocke is
probably work it with.
already pretty mobile, so like famine is kind of wasted on her.
I don't know if it's wasted. She's like with the hop, the famine, a Cybo advance. She can just get somewhere and then still punch them for 7.
Yeah. But then
She can
you're
cover
also
a huge
losing the
distance.
token because you're going to be in 3, right?
Mm, yeah, but
Well, if you daze your
you
target,
could drain
though.
them.
Yeah, I guess you could.
Any other characters that you played and cut that you want to share some thoughts in terms of why they got cut?
I had Beast, but I don't think I put him on the table. He was
Yeah,
there kind of
me
just
too.
for. He's just kind of a good all rounder, but problem with all rounders is like sometimes they just don't make it in.
Yeah.
I found
I mean,
myself
and
really. Go ahead, Alex.
I was just gonna say, with all arounders, like they're good, but if I have somebody that's just better at something else, and then I have 3 others that are better at something else that equal the
Mhm.
one all arounder, I'll just take them. I'll just take all the better people.
He was kind of like my like D plan. Like I'd take him because he's pretty mobile with some of those other Brotherhood guys I was talking about. Or he could be like a discount Colossus for a Pestilence medium-based medium mover. But I just never ended up putting him on the table. I think I swapped him out for Blob.
There, yeah,
Any
I put them. I put them on the table once, so I'm right there with you.
um any other thoughts on the actual roster before we move over? I want to at least touch a little bit on the tactics cards before we go into the crisis. So, anything more you guys want to talk about with regards to the roster itself?
I think Cable's an interesting choice just because he can throw size 4s. Apoc doesn't really want stuff thrown into him. The opposing team
Yeah,
has a lot of throwers, like you can get rid of the terrain. You can dump terrain faster to essentially prevent damage to Apoc later in the game. That's another cool thing about Blob is he's got a size 3 throw, so you can clear some of the 3s along with Colossus. So I like them for that too. But Cable is unique in the list because he's the only one who can throw size 4s. And we were talking about that the other night. Him being War, like it sucks. You don't really want to play Cable at like range 2 of a bunch of people, but like being able to Ascandi Sun, and like spend tokens to trigger War superpowers on every attack is pretty gross. Like 7 dice attacks, with like against 3 people or something.
Can you do that?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, does war require you to use it before you
Oh,
or
maybe. Yeah, you might be right.
does it happen at
Yeah,
targeting?
I think you might be able to play it once. You're right.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that war can be used
It can be
more
used,
than
but you can
once.
only use it once. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So never mind. You can only use it once. I still think he's fine there, but that's not as good. I like being able to give your dudes extra dice on defense is really good too. I mean, it's Cable, right? He's he's not amazing, but he's good and he serves a purpose. I just don't really like 5s are just weird on the list to me.
Right.
Well,
Um,
and also having a 5 that kind of wants to play, I don't want to say a back point sitter, but that's kind of what he's doing. Like it's I don't like it. I don't want to
nah,
expect it to do that.
I think Deadpool's that
That's what I'm
guy.
saying. Like I don't think you want to be taking a 5 foot to do that.
Yeah,
So you're better off just probably taking a war or like a 3 and a 2, right?
yeah.
because they're so much better.
Yeah. And I think Sabretooth's interesting, but he's just kind of squishy. He has a cool war because you can generate extra tokens on the clapbacks and stuff, but
Deck, yeah, it's cool.
I feel like
His damage can get crazy too. He can throw some fucking damage.
Oh yeah. He's my Sabretooth.
Yeah.
So, you guys were fairly straightforward, I guess. Do you feel like having 2 restricted tactics cards is important enough that you wouldn't even think about bringing Researcher?
Yeah.
Or would you
I
not?
think we talked about it earlier, like the 15.
Yeah. Researcher's just a non-starter because of the 15 anyway. Okay.
Yep.
So, it sounded like for the most part, some of the tactics cards were sort of fight. Is there anything outside of that that you are thinking that's useful, particularly for Alex? You mentioned that you brought Fisk along. Is that kind of along the same line?
You were breaking up, Patrick. I didn't quite hear you.
Oh. Okay. You had mentioned that you brought Fisk along. Is it was your thought process behind that is same kind of thing to push the fight towards the center?
Yes, but also I just like the idea of Apocalypse and Wolverine not really suffering much of a downside playing those crises. And I don't know if too many people really know how to play against Fisk. It was a good example at like Show Me. I played Fisk 2 out of the 3 games that I played. Or well, 2 of the 3. You know, we had 5 games, so 2 of the 5 games, but my 5th game was a 5. Either way, half my games were Fisk, and people did not know how to play it. And I lost to Thanos because he's Thanos, and that's the only reason why I lost that Fisk game. But the other Fisk game, my opponent was dead in the water. Basically, they just did not know what to do. So I really like that crises because of that. And if a crisis can make my opponent worse, but me, unaffected, or at least not as affected as them, I'll take it.
So, one of the questions I wanted to ask, or well, not questions. One of the things I wanted to add to that is, since we're talking about Fisk, I did ask the question on the ruling on the forums about how his superpower works with Fisk and demons, and they finally gave me the ruling back, which is that it doesn't work. So you can't change the condition.
Stun incinerate.
Get incinerate again, yeah, because it's not happening in an active turn. So,
And
I do like Fisk. It could set up good pestilence bombs, but I just don't like the 16 threat. And I'm not running Wolverine, so
that's one of the other things too. I was going to say the 16 threat is the 16 threat. I think is weird for just a lot of rosters in general because it's not common. And
right.
People don't take Fist, and people don't usually take Black Order Descends. And some of the scoring teams will play Paranoia, but like you've got those 3, they don't get played a lot. So 16 is not very common.
Like I'm not completely opposed to playing Toad, Honey Badger, Blob, and like Deadpool or something. It's fine. I can go 5 wide at 16. It's just not ideal. I mean, Apoc can still thump with his full suite of rider superpowers, so I'm not super worried about that. But I'd rather
probably
fit in the more premium guys.
Really fucking annoying pestilence bombs.
Yeah, that was the idea. Yeah, the pest bombs would be good on Fisk for sure.
Well, and you're adding the pestilence bomb and you're adding the stun. So now it's like now you're stacking conditions for Apocalypse Suspender.
Yeah, that's another thing with Fisk is that it's a condition that the APOC roster just doesn't really have access to outside of Psylocke. Maybe there's something else that gives stun, but it's pretty like APOC doesn't give it, Pestilence doesn't give it. I'm not sure. I think Psylocke might be the only one.
I have to look. Let me look. I'll look, and then.
But yeah, I do like Fisk in theory, but I just I had it for a while. I ended up cutting though for Scoundrels just to kind of hedge my bets. Like the Scoundrels and Senators are. Well, we can talk about those when we get there.
Well, and that's
Colossus
actually was the
gives
next thing I wanted
on
to.
his tenure.
Oh, you're right. You're right. He does, Alex.
That was that was the next thing I was actually going to ask about. Was your thought process behind Scoundrels and Senators?
So APOC can that dude hits hard, but I don't think the list is necessarily just like all in on attrition. And I think there's teams that can attrition better and can take advantage of priority. To where I don't think you want to get in a knockdown drag out fight necessarily. So Senators and Scoundrels kind of dissuades people from taking like 3 tall lists or 3 tall squads against you. So
have you
like
played games with Scoundrels?
I've only played one in the mirror. So
How was that? We should talk about that because that's one of the things I'm curious about too.
I had Prio. I'm trying to think what it was Virus. I think it was Virus and Scoundrels obviously. I walked up. I set Deadpool up. He brought Cassandra Nova, and I was kind of worried about that because I didn't have her in my list at that point, and she has a ton of control. So I moved. I held deploying Deadpool until he set up Cassandra, and I set up Deadpool across from her, so that he'd have 4 defense against her attacks, and I had cover, and she can't advance me.
Yeah.
Good. So I used him to go pick up the far virus, and then he picked up his flank virus with Toad, and then we kind of chickened on the middle virus, and then I finally bit and grabbed it with Colossus like second to last act, and then he couldn't get any damage on Colossus, and I moved APOC up, and I think I shot. But I ended up collapsing on a flank. His APOC act was like he double moved and maybe famine hopped to my back flank Scoundrel where Deadpool was. Deadpool and Blob was actually on the Scoundrel, and Deadpool was like out in front of it a little because he picked up the extract. I think his idea was to maybe kill Deadpool top of the round. But I just activated Deadpool and rotated him toward mid, put him on the point so he has cover, and then I beat up Toad on his side and basically just collapsed my entire team onto that flank where Toad was. So like he had his Cassandra Nova and Blob on his back, like on the other side, so they weren't doing anything, and he had APOC on my side, on my Scoundrel on that side. So I was just forcing him to like burn actions to move while I held all the viruses and rotated.
Could he have just walked fucking APOC forward and punched Deadpool?
Well, so Deadpool would have gotten cover. Deadpool was set up next to Colossus, so he could have bodyguarded if he got on the point.
Well, he can't bodyguard because it's taunt, right?
Or what? Yeah, he could have taunted if. So since Colossus was on the point, if APOC wanted to get on the point to clear the.
Oh,
the cover,
saying,
he would be
could he
taunting.
could he walk from and be on the back point and still punch Deadpool? He could do that, right?
Are you talking about like his first move?
Yes. Could he
He
have?
was set
Could
up
he have walked?
his APOC was set up centrally, and my Deadpool was behind like a
Oh,
size 3 crate, so he couldn't even see him.
oh, oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
Because I was like, I thought he set up across from your
yeah,
side on where
yeah.
Deadpool was. Because
Nah,
then he
he
could
set
have
up
just
APOC
walked over there
mid.
and punched him.
So I had Blob Deadpool on one side. He had Cassandra Blob on that side. I had APOC Colossus center. He had APOC center, and then I had Wolverine on my side, and he had Toad and Deadpool on that side. And he, for whatever reason, we figured it out. He was playing a point down, so mistakes were made.
Yeah, yeah. Did you punch it his Apocalypse? I assume not, right?
I think
Did he?
I I did daze his APOC. I think, if I remember right, to deny him the activation at some point in the game. I was just playing points game. I scored out. I want to say like round 4.
Okay. Because you were wider and could do all the stuff because you got Nova, right?
No, we were the same. I think because I brought APOC, Colossus. That's 10. Wolverine 14. Blob, Deadpool. So we were 5v5.
Okay.
But I had Prio, got the extract, and just kind of rotated. Used the scoundrel points to get cover. Just played it really cagey with bodyguard or with Colossus taunt and stuff. And I was able to get his Toad, and that just put me up a lot of points, and he couldn't get it back. Wolverine picked up his virus.
So
I mean,
you guys play 19 or 20? You played 20, right?
that was 20, yeah.
So just to kind of put a bow on Apocalypse, because I want to make sure we have enough time to go over the Mephisto roster too. JP, Alex, anything else that you kind of want to say, or maybe was there anything that you found that surprised you from what you were expecting when you started playing Apocalypse?
I had one surprise. Sorry, it took me a moment to think about it, but I was surprised at how often I would change certain things in the list. Not in a bad way, but it just to get a better feel for it. And you'll do that with any list, but this list, just like everything feels better every time I change something.
Yeah, I was surprised at how much customization there was in the list. Given that splashes are not welcome, typically. But it's such a dynamic leadership that changes the way characters play that it was worth considering a lot of things. And I was surprised that I ended up cutting Iceman, honestly, because I thought he was just going to be the famine dude, which I still think he could be if your meta has a lot of Ds, because having a slow beam is just stupid on Ds, but like it's just not
really
something I'm looking for right now. Like Deadpool
Pop
Deadpool
up,
has so much better
fade away.
singles. Yeah. I mean, it's great to be able to slow and then like just completely kick their rotational ability in the nuts. But Deadpool just has such better single target damage as Famine that
I would bet.
like I can't justify Iceman right now.
I'm also a fan of Deadpool. I think he's like currently one of the best threes. He's not like S tier 3, but like he's definitely pretty good. Like he's got a lot of shit going for him. He's got a place, he's got rerolls, you know, he's got neat mechanics, decent attacks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the better a character starts with, or the higher tier a character starts with to be an APOC, the better they're just going to end up being. I think if you start with garbage, I don't know if, I mean, it gets you a little mileage, but like Sinister and Gambit are just not the thing.
They're still Sinister and Gambit.
Yes.
And what's Gambit's? What is his horseman?
Death and famine.
Uh-huh. Not good.
Hey, so thanks guys. That was really good. Hopefully Webheads that'll give you some grist to chew on for Apocalypse. David, you've been playing a Mephisto list. Why don't you go through that, go through the roster, and then give some thoughts in terms of why each of the models that you've got in the list are there.
So, side note, I actually really like Festo as a character, like in the comics. I just like his I just like the idea of like he's trying to do something, but you know it's gonna be bad, like either which way it goes. And so I just like Mephisto from a character standpoint. And when his leader came out, I was kind of looking at it and going, okay, well, the real selling point here is you take whatever you want, right?
Right.
So currently I have Mephisto, because obviously CGR, Rhino, Dracula, Cage, Encantu, Bullseye, Dwarf, Juggernaut, and I recently decided to add Invincible Iron Man. So my thoughts for this roster were initially when I realized that Mephisto could stand on a midpoint and pull a large base model from deployment with his like with his what's it called?
Meet my
How
associate.
can I be of service or meet my associate? I realized that you can place a large base a long way away, right? Basically, because you get the distance of the three, and then you get Mephisto's base, plus you get range one, and then you get the model's base. But like that's a large distance to be putting somebody in front of you, and they could be unactivated, which is like I don't know if you want to take Rhino like in your face on round one without him hitting. Like that's just crazy. And he's gonna get damaged, so he'll have power. So it's like, oh, now I'm going to like stampede, probably robbery you. You know, like
not only does it
like
not only does it give him power when he takes damage, but he also gets too aggressive when he takes damage, right?
yeah, it's really dumb. It's I think it's a really good combo. So my thoughts were like, oh my, any of these large bases that I could like abuse the idea of, and I like the idea of like Dracula, Clapback, and I like a few characters like Cage because Cage is tanky and he has a taunt. Placing him and then having him be able to taunt people is just good. Um, I also so when I was initially looking at the roster, I didn't have CGR in my radar, and then I started thinking about him. I'm like, why am I not adding this guy in here? Because not only can I potentially like place him up the field on round one, in the cleanup phase, I can give him a power, and then he can do his power generation and almost guarantee he's gonna stay psychosis, which is like fantastic for CGR. Because that was the issue before, was when they nerfed him, he didn't have a way to like give himself power so he could project to make sure he would have enough power to maintain the psychosis token, right? So the way they changed it made it just a lot more like he doesn't really do much on round one now. And having the ability to place him is just fantastic. I mean, they got to take the bait, right? Obviously, your opponent's got to attack Mephisto, but I mean, if they don't attack Mephisto, he's still sitting in the middle of the table, probably holding the extract, probably scoring a secure, which is like ideal anyway. So adding CGR, I realized CGR is just ridiculous with Mephisto. It's just ridiculous. I mean, in our
And
game, I probably spend her like at least 3 times.
at
Like
least, yeah. Can
hitting a
confirm
CGR spender 3 times in a game is like almost unheard of now because he just doesn't have the power generation for it, especially since
yeah.
the cost of it went up.
Yeah, that was can confirm CGR is still a problem and doesn't feel real good to play into against with Mephisto.
Our spender is still, I mean, that thing is a delete button. It usually kills whatever it hits. It's pretty freaking stupid.
I think the only thing that can rival it is a APOC spender at this point.
That and like Helios, right? Those are the
It's a
things.
Texas card. Doesn't count.
But yeah, it doesn't count. It doesn't count.
So what's your thought what's your thought with Encanto?
So I had been looking at, because originally I didn't have a 3, I only had Cage. And I kind of realized that there's going to be times where I want to go slightly wider and have a little bit more flexibility. And I realized that I didn't have a really good character. So my roster's running double E's and intrusions, and it's running researcher, virus, and ships. So I'm basically running everything down the middle on both directions. Because the idea is I want to have a middle point for Mephisto to camp on to basically tempt people into attacking him. Maybe they don't, maybe they do. If they do, cool for me. If they don't, he holds his deal token and I just go to another round, right? Figure it out after that. So I was looking at Encanto and I'm like, okay, he's a 3 threat with DR. So he's like in the same camp as Cage. I mean, he's not quite as tough as Cage, but he's still 4 physical. He's 4 mystic, and he's got DR. Sure, he's got 2 energy, but 2 energy with DR is still good. And he's immune to bleed, hex, and poison. So, like, good things to be immune to. And I like the fact that he can. So I like the idea of being able to like port him up and have him take damage just because whatever. It's in Kantu. I don't he's tanky enough that I could survive a hit if I wanted to like put him up somewhere using, because I guess the whole idea of the roster is to abuse the how I can the meet my associate. I want to do that. I want to abuse the ability to place models a long way away and not have my opponent have many options about what to do about that. So I was realizing that I could place Encanto and set him up for his stupid area attack. And he would take damage, so he'd have power. So now it's like, and I can feed him power at the end of his active, or at the end of the cleanup phase with the leadership. And so basically I can just like start steadily feeding this guy power so that he can like area bomb a bunch of shit with a bunch of power. Which I was like, that's pretty nuts. Like, why am I not doing that? And I also wanted a back point sitter on my E's. So I like the fact that Encanto can sit on the front side of an E and he can like just throw his mystic sever souls at range 4, gain soul tokens. If he has to spend them for his power to do it again, That's not the end of the world. Throwing 2 range 4 mythic attacks that are 6 dice from a 3 threat is pretty fucking good. Like, I like that a lot. And so having him be
So
able to sit on a back point and do that is pretty good to me.
if he's your back point center, he's basically throwing 1, right? If you're
mean,
giving
I
him a power with
assume,
Mephisto,
well, you can feed him power and then he can spend his captured souls to
yeah, that's true.
gain power.
That's true. He can
to
gain
be able
power
to
from
do it
that.
again. Any obviously he's going to gain them when other characters get dazed, KO'd. So using
So
it
if
to
you, yeah, I guess you could set up like a kind of a feedback loop with his mini spender. If you deal damage, he gets his captured soul token, right?
yeah, and if you kill him,
And then you can
he gets
spend
a
this
capture soul token.
captured soul token to get power to throw
Do
another
it again.
mini spender. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's good. I like it. And if somebody comes and tries to, mess with him, he can just punch him off the point with his strike. Because like he can basically he can almost guarantee the wild if he needs to, right? Using his thing. And I like the fact that he's 3. I think his area attack is legit good.
I've
And
been wrecked by it twice now. Both times
I
it was
think
a
it's
kick
good.
in the nuts.
So that's what I was thinking about with him.
And I think I know the
Oh,
I
go
think
ahead.
I
Say
know
what
the
ask.
I mean I think I know the answer to this question, but what's the thought behind Invincible Iron Man?
So there's been a couple things that I've been thinking about. One, I don't really have a plan on Fisk. Not that I think people are going to bring it, but it's a possibility, right? And I don't really want to get Mephisto stunned because that kind of sucks. And I'm going to want to be putting him on the point to use his thing. He's probably going to get stunned. So maybe I need to come up with a better plan. So that's one of the reasons behind like Juggernaut, right? It's Juggernaut, man. He's a large base, so I can do the thing,
Mhm.
right? I can pop him up. He can be right in front of you. He can scoot his ass up and smack you real hard on your point if he wants to. And if you decide, oh, maybe I'll wait till he activates and then attack Mephisto and I place him, his Juggernaut's stupid tactics card throw is out of activation. So I can just place my model within 2 of you and go, I'm going to get you back into your deployment zone. Go away from me. Which is fantastic.
Pretty good.
So, and I also playing Mephisto more. So initially I had seen his whatever his superpower is, the one that costs 1, and you can roll dice, you do damage on hits, gain power on wilds.
Mhm.
I looked at that thing and I was like, this seems okay. I don't know what I'm doing with this. And then I realized that stupid thing is not once per turn. It's once per character per turn.
Yep.
Actually, I think it specifies per round, which is actually kind
Char-
of a big thing. But
yeah, devils do. A character may be affected by this superpower only once per round.
I can use it multiple times.
Yep.
I realized, why am I not just like, okay, say I start a round and Mephisto, I've been using my tokens well, and I have 3 on me, right? So I'm going to gain 3 power, and I'm going to gain 4 power, and I'm going to gain an right. When he acts, I can just go, I'm going to spend 1, 2, 3 tokens, and I'm going to bomb 3 people, and then I'm gonna
And then you have your two.
place
Then
up,
you have your
attack
two
you
actions.
once. Yeah, I'm gonna place up, attack you once, gain 1, do a damage, place or attack you again, do 1 damage, gain another token, and basically just plink 3 damage off of you, and then go, hey, who's alive around here that's low on health that I can plink with more damage? Then I can just spend more tokens and plink more damage, which is kind of interesting. I mean,
Plus you have
can
an
throw.
plus you have an activation that takes like an hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean, the mechanic is it's really interesting, and so that lead me to start to think about maybe I need to start trying to find characters that can do blink damage or leave characters on a certain amount of health so that Mephisto can blink damage them. So like Bullseye and
Mhm.
Juggernaut Scoot,
Yep.
and like I'm starting to get all of these things together, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I could take Invincible Iron Man and Helios Laser because I'm already powering up Tony. I can power up Tony with the leadership, right? I can power him up at the end of the round. And I can use Mephisto to like place him into better positions to where he can like double shoot people and potentially gen power. And I mean, Mephisto can end up flush with power too if I'm managing his deal tokens well. So not can keep a bunch of power. Like I'm starting to go, okay, I have all these characters with all this power. Maybe I bring Helios because Helios is freaking good. And I could just kill something that I need to kill.
What's the
And
thought of Invincible over just the original core Iron Man?
so Invincible does a few things. One, I really, really like how much more tanky Invincible is over
Mhm.
regular 3-threat Tony. So having him take a hit from Mephisto doesn't feel as bad.
Right.
The other thing too I like about him is he has the ability to his like I mean his fistful of dollars, that punch, so stupid. It throws medium. A 4 threat with a side with a medium throw off of an attack that costs 3 power? Stupid. Like it's ridiculous. It's so good. And he can place before he does it so he can choose the angle of where he wants that throw to go. So like for 3 power, it's so good. And if I'm feeding him power,
Right.
like he could theoretically be at 3 power at the end of round one, and then he can rocket punch to a point and then repulsor or throw them away and repulsor them away. And now you've just sent a character way far away from you and moved Tony up, right? So all these things I like about Tony. I think Tony's just he's a good character. I think he has a weird play pattern and his power management is difficult. But I think if he can do those things, oh, and he also brings the reroll bubble,
Right.
which is kind of important. There are like Mephisto needs to do damage to gain his capture or his
His-
deal tokens.
Yep.
So ensuring having rerolls to go, okay, I need to do 1 damage here. Maybe I reroll a dice because I need to get this capture soul
Mhm.
token. Or not soul token, it's deal token. So like I think that's the most important thing with Mephisto is managing his deal tokens because you don't want to ever get in a situation where you're like, I don't have any deal tokens. What happens if somebody attacks me right now?
Mhm.
Can I take this hit or do I need to like figure out something to do? So then that made me think about the up the ante card. So first I was thinking maybe you just spam it. And then I was like, no, maybe that's not the right play. Maybe the right play is to wait until you find yourself in a situation where you don't have any deal tokens and then you just play the card. Because if they take the deal, you're going to get 2 tokens. If
Mhm.
they don't take the deal, you get to activate again, and then you just gain 3 tokens.
Right.
Being his activation, right? So either way, you're going to be able to like dig yourself out of all. Oh shit, I don't have any deal tokens. Because it's going to be a problem with a lot of people when they first initially start playing Mephisto. Because if you double move him out into mid and you let him get attacked and he does his thing, you don't have a deal token anymore, which means that any future attacks are going to go on to him. And he won't have a deal token going into the next round, which means that, like, he's not gaining as much power. He has to figure out, he needs to activate to get deal tokens. So like even if you get yourself in a situation on round 1 and you go, oh shit, I need deal tokens. Maybe you just play anti anyway and just activate him again in round 1 just to get 3 tokens. Now if it gives up priority, maybe it's not the play, but maybe it is and it's fine.
Okay.
It's one of those things that I've been thinking about. And the other thing, because you asked me about Invincible Iron Man. So in a lot of the Discord chats, because I'm usually bouncing around in all of those, and everybody's been complaining about Fat Thor. Everybody's like, Fat Thor's a menace. Like, I mean, he's good. I like the idea of Invincible Iron Man because he's getting damage reduction on the pounce. He's getting damage reduction on the terrain throw. He's getting damage reduction on his attacks, and he's getting damage reduction on. He can damage out his stupid electric arts from his. He can damage reduction the stupid damage from the throw with the bender. Right. So like he's mitigating a lot of Thor's. Well, and he also produces on Thor's clapback. So like he's mitigating a lot of what Thor's trying to do in damage. And can also push and throw him before he can clap back. Which means you can throw him outside of 3 and go, okay, I don't care about your clapback anyway. So all of those things together, I think Iron Man gives me an advantage into an Asgard roster, or at least a slight one. And maybe people don't play Invincible Iron Man. People don't realize how tanky he is. People think he's like the other Tony. He's way tankier than the other Tony. He's got more health and he's got damage reduction to 0. Damage reduction to 0 is stupid. It's like one of the best superpowers in the game. Even if his is the shitty version of it that only works on enemy effects, it's still good. And
JP, oh, sorry.
he,
Go ahead. Keep going.
he brings Helios, which was the other thing that I was like, because I was like, one of the things I was noticing with this roster is like I have a lot of free tactics card slots because the only Mephisto card I'm bringing is the leadership and anti.
Right.
I like the other one, but you know, it's weird. So I needed cards to fill. So I'm like looking at cards and going, okay, like what can I bring that's good? And I'm like, okay, well, I got Juggernaut, big Juggernaut Stro, got, you know, I'm taking researchers, so I lose the restricted, but I'm bringing Page, so I take heroes. I've got
Robbery.
Recal, Robbery. I got Warpath because I have Dracula, and I like the idea of being able to like have Dracula get attacked and him Warpathing up and being able to put an attack into somebody.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was just thinking, why not Helios? It's a good card. I could use it. I could use it to take activation or just take them off if I need to. It's a good thing.
I like Warpath a lot for Black Dwarf too.
I do like Warpath a lot for Black Dwarf as well.
And Black Dwarf has the same, because of his base size, he has the same kind of thing as with the other. Plus, then you throw him up, and he's got a taunt to make life miserable for trying to get to Mephisto.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, technically with Warpath, you could do some stupid shit with Rhino if there was a situation where somebody attacked you from a really far distance, and you're like, I want a Warpath and I want like aggressive right to you.
Double up on it.
Hope that's any good, but it's something. I probably would not do that.
JP, Alex, have you guys had a chance to play into Mephisto, or what are you thinking about the roster and about how you might have to deal with it?
I personally have not played into Mephisto yet. I don't know. I would have to see it on the table. I might have to play David this week, but I just don't know what to expect of it and what to change in the roster, if anything.
I think going forward with this Mephisto roster, I want to try to jam CGR as much as I can. Like that dude just feels so fucking good. Like he just wrecks shop. And you're like, well, what do I do about this guy? Like, I can't like throw him away because if you attack Mephisto, I just bring him right back in. Or he places 5 and
Right.
just wrecks you anyway.
And he's got the
Like
power to do it.
it's just silly. So silly.
How about you, JP? Have you had any Mephisto experience, or what are you thinking when you see him across the table?
He's so new that we had that Brawlhalla tournament on Saturday, so everyone skipped Friday. This last week, Landon had won him at Brawlhalla, so
Oh.
he put him together and brought him, and I played him on Friday, and he didn't really know what he was doing yet, so the play wasn't optimal.
What did he play?
He brought Mephisto, Drac, Mummy, Baron Zemo, and what is that? 5, 10, 16. Who else did he bring? Oh, Black Panther, Bast.
Mm-hmm.
So we played 19.
Is he
Yeah,
trying to dual affiliate sons here? Is that what he's trying to do?
No, he just has his pet picks. I don't know. It was a Mephisto roster. So I basically like ported Apoc up, and I think I moved. Did I move to mid? I put a shot into Mephisto round 1, and he did associate in a Drac, and then I think I dazed Mephisto top of round 2, so he never got tokens.
Is that because he didn't have?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying about that. You have to be able to manage those.
Yeah.
Like those are really important.
I think I double tapped him with Apoc maybe or something. I can't remember exactly. I kind of thrashed his team pretty quick, and then Mummy came back with his tactics card and like dazed like 3 of my people on round 3.
So I'm saying that I think the Texas card is freaking legit.
That card wrecks. Well, the being able to spend skulls to just have successes is bonkers. Not only because it's just one, it's not like a reroll. You just get a success, and you can do it more than once. Like if you roll 3 skulls, you can just like success all 3, and then they're taking 3 extra damage, and you have perfect information.
If they get dazed, you can get a token back.
Yep.
So that's good too.
When is the trigger on that? Is it when they're dazed or after it's resolved?
I think it's when another
I don't know
character
specifically, but
it's when another character.
So you can keep rolling them. So because you lose your tokens at the end of the tactics card attack. Right. You lose any remaining tokens. So I'm not sure. So the way you're describing it, if he dazed his first target and he had spent 1 or more tokens, he would gain another token.
Yep.
And then he'd be able to use that token on the next attack.
Yep.
So he has perfect information because the skull flip is like at the end of the modified dice step.
The end, yeah,
which is crazy.
Yep,
it's crazy.
So it's not during your modified dice step. It's at the end of the attack sequence, basically.
Yep.
So like you do it after they modify their defense, after they might modify your attacks, like everything's said and done. Like, how much more do I need to kill you? Okay, I'm spending that many tokens. You're dead.
It's pretty.
Yeah, the mummy card is stupid. But yeah, I played it against Meph. He didn't do much. He never gained another token. Like he had the one he started with, and he never gained another one the whole game.
So that kind of goes back to your theory, David, that the key to being successful with Mephisto is to be making sure that you're keeping him with flush with tokens.
So so in my games, I learned that I want to try to activate Mephisto as early as possible in the round, just to make sure that I'm where I need to be. And in case I need to play anti, he's already activated to remove the token.
Right.
It just it gets a little weird. I think you have to be able to know when to let Mephisto take a hit and when not to. And that sometimes that can get weird.
I know you mentioned a little bit when you were talking about the Mummy, but what's your plan, or have you had a chance to play it Mephisto on a wider or a faster scenario?
So that's a little bit of a mixed question because none of my crises are fast. So you got to be bringing a 6 or a 5 to make any of these crises fast. Because if you've got a 4, I'm running 3s or 2 in the case of researcher, right? So it's gonna be 7. You know what I mean? Like, 7 is slowish, so it's gonna be difficult for the teams that want to run scoring crisis. They run scoring crisis and they end up on a 4, and I've got a 3. Well, cool. We're rolling 7. Like, I'm fine with that. And I know I got a point in the middle because I've made sure all my crises are covered that way.
Right.
So I'm not extremely worried about something like a webs, but in Cantu, what's your ace in the hole there because he has mystic attacks.
Right.
And I really like them. Oh, I will obviously like CGR there because CGR's murders shit. And Rhino is fantastic because Rhino does Rhino things. As we found out, he does Rhino things.
Can confirm.
He can get a long way, that Rhino guy. Long way. Like, excuse me, let me come all the way over to this side of the table and take all of your objectives.
So what's your one restricted card then, aside from researcher?
Indomitable. So I brought Indomitable because Brace is good.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
A lot
is it so? Mephisto's got 3 physical defense, and you can't meet my associate for throws. And if you're not running Brace, what's your plan there?
So
you do have characters who have size 4 throws like Rhino and Dwarf. Are you trying to like blitz those terrain pieces as fast as you can with those characters? Or
terrain pieces. Like, if I think my opponent's gonna try to throw them into me, obviously I'm gonna throw them into them first. Like, and I can easily get my models up the board to do it.
Right.
So I do like that. And I don't hate double moving Juggernaut. Right. And
Juggernaut.
Using his tactic
cards. I guess you could burn his tactic cards for it.
It's not,
I don't hate Dwarf dropping one like round 2.
Yeah, I don't hate him dropping one round 2 either.
Because you could feed him a power into round 1 and then have him have 3 power at the start of round 2.
Yeah. Well, the Indom thing was because I realized Mephisto is vulnerable to throws, but majority of my other characters aren't. Most of them, like 4 physical with DR. Like Rhino, and Cantu, Dwarf, Juggernaut. Like, I mean, even Cage is 4 physical with DR. So, like, I'm already eliminating one of those damage off the top. So it just makes, I don't think Brace has as much value as Indom because I'm trying to keep my positioning. Because you can mess up my whole machine if you just go, I'm going to throw Mephisto over here and beat up on him over here in the corner where you can't bring anybody over there. And so, like, what do I do about that? And Indom is a way to go, okay, well, I'm not going to let you throw me because I need to be right here.
Right.
And it also can act as a pseudo brace if they decide to throw one of my size 4s into me, and I just go, nope, you're not going to throw. So those are that's the reason why Indom. I just think the value of positioning with Mephisto is so much more greater than being able to protect from theoretical throw damage.
Yeah. So you named a lot of characters with damage reduction. What's your thoughts, or what is your plan if you face a Namor?
Punch that stupid fucking fishman in the face. I don't know. Like, I mean, that's the idea, I guess, right? Um, I mean, he doesn't want to deal with a CGR. CGR's like, I'm gonna incinerate you. I'm gonna pull you away from your little bubble with Zemo, and now you're gonna take doubles, 6 dice counting skulls that I might be re-rolling with Tony and die. I mean, like that's pretty my thought process is in that, at least. Because if I can separate Namor from everybody else, then it doesn't like Namor's pretty easy to get if you can keep him away from his like safety net of other shit. Because he just like the whole Namor Zemo, I'm just gonna re-roll everything bubble only works if they're together, right?
Right. So what's kind of in the lab for you with Mephisto in terms of what you're anxious to try next? I mean, I know you kind of this, it's just sort of the start of the list, and it sounds like you've kind of got a plan. What are you thinking is kind of the next step for it?
Well, I haven't actually put Invincible on the table in the roster, but I played a lot of games with Invincible, so I kind of know where
Mhm.
that's going to go. But I'm interested to see if my thoughts on it are actually facts and rather than just conjecture.
Okay.
But I'm curious about a couple of my like one of the spots I've been thinking about is Dracula. I like Dracula a lot. I'm not 100% sure he's right. It's weird because while I like Dracula's clapback, you could find yourself in a scenario where you move him and he just gets one shot, and then you're like, "Well, fuck, I wanted to clap back. Now, now I don't get to do that." Um, I think he's if I was thinking about something like Wrecking Crew because I like the idea of having as many of the 4 threat characters with large bases so I can
Right.
abuse the place. Problem with the Wrecking Crew is I think that they're a little bit less durable, so I don't know if that's something that's worth like pulling them into getting hit and them just dying maybe, right?
Right.
um I don't know if I like that. That would be something I'd be interested to see. And I think that I've been slowly trying to introduce more characters into more of my rosters with more immunities to shit because of Apocalypse and Dracula and
Yeah.
even Mephisto, right? So like I think because like CGR is like immune to fucking everything that matters. And he's immune to bleed. So like Dracula does not want any piece of
Right.
CGR, right? He can hit him at range 4. He can dump energy into him. He can light him on fire, and he can just kill him. Like, I'm done with you. And and Drac can't bleed him. He
Right.
probably can't counterattack him. He's gonna have to struggle to like. He's gonna have to be moving to come up there and hit him. Does he
Yeah.
even want to do that? Probably not. So, I mean, yeah, that's what I've been thinking.
Okay. Um, any other kind of closing thoughts or suggestions if someone that's listening is thinking about picking Mephisto up and trying him out?
Well, I mean, the cool thing about Festo is you can take anybody you want. So like, you can start looking at characters. I had Immortal Hulk in a variation where I was like, oh, I can port Immortal Hulk up, and I can have him next to Mephisto, and if he gets dazed, I can just do the patch up thing because I'm right next to him, right? And I can
Right.
funnel him power, and like, I mean, it's Eye Hulk, right? If Eye Hulk's in your face, he's like stomping, which I'm like, it's fine, but seventh threat, it gets weird, and then it's
Yeah.
like, why am I not just taking Hulk?
Right.
And I thought about Hulk too. And Hulk could probably be fine. I think Hulk. I also think Fat Thor is somebody to consider. He's
Mm-hmm.
he's on my like small list. Like, I might rotate out Drax for him just to see if I like him better. And I like having the idea of having another six threat besides CGR. Like, if I'm taking a six threat, I'll probably just take a CGR because he's good. Um, and I've been thinking. I thought about the Sentinel Prime because I like the idea of he's a large base. I like porting him up. I like his immunities. I like his pull. I like the rolls. I mean, there's a lot of things to like about him,
Yeah.
but he's three physical,
Yeah.
and like, okay, he come up, he gets yoinked. Maybe he just takes a bunch of damage that you really didn't intend for him to take.
Yeah. He's also
And
he's also he's also size 5, and you only have one indom.
yeah, uh, size 5 thrown in his face. Infest's face is not fun.
Not so
Um,
not so much.
so I thought about the prime, and there may be a world where maybe somebody like Dracula is like uber prevalent, and then the Sentinel Prime's value goes up.
Yeah.
He's immune to
Yep.
bleed, and he can't be bowed. So
Right.
like, between those two things, maybe. But that comes down to if Dracula ends up being an actual menace as opposed
Right.
to like just a good character.
Right.
Um,
Alex,
you
any
know,
closing thoughts? Any closing thoughts from you about Mephisto? Anything that's kind of rattle around in your brain as David was talking about?
Um, Not really, just because David covered everything that I could think of right off the bat. I'm just excited to play against them because it's something new, and he seems interesting to play against. So I'm super interested.
Yeah, I got a couple of games against Davis's. It's a lot. It's very different. It's a lot of fun. JP, how about you?
GR.
Oh yeah, the CGR part was not fun. I can confirm that.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see what it looks like if people aren't taking the bait of the port,
Oh, I
because
mean,
it's
in in our game, right? Patrick didn't take the bait on any of
Nope.
my round ones,
Yeah.
so it did feel bad for me because I was like, okay, I guess I don't. I keep my power and I keep my deal token. It's fine. Mephisto's still scoring. I'm still doing the thing that I need to do with him. And I'm dead, right? So, I mean, maybe my opponent just like decides to like come stand next to Mephisto. Like, that's up to you too. And then I
I
can move up Tony and shoot him off or
yeah.
whatever. So,
I felt like in those games, I felt like once I was able to get Mephisto kind of off by himself, he wasn't that terrible to deal with, as opposed to when he was bunched up with all his pals. That seemed to me to be the most effective way of handling him, at least with the roster that I had.
well, the other thing with Mephisto is he probably usually doesn't have many like just like amazing activations. Like, most of his activations are like, I'm gonna do a couple points of damage to you and gain some deal tokens and move around. It's pretty much what I'm doing.
Well,
Now you
at least until towards the end of the game when he's got like
Yeah,
a
when you
14
can
dice
start building
beam or
stuff up
whatever.
and he can
Hmm.
throw beams at you,
Yeah,
that's when he starts to get stupid. Because then
yeah,
it's like,
right. I
oh, I'm gonna
mean,
port over here. I'm gonna punch you. I'm gonna do damage to you. I'm gonna trap you. I'm gonna beam you. I'm gonna like
yeah,
do
I
something
mean,
else.
I mean, when you're gonna burn it all up, Mephisto's got some real good activations in him. JP, any other thoughts that kind of come to you since we've been talking about him?
I do like. I I I can't say it's unique, but it's pretty close to unique. The fact that you have basically a mid stealer who is like functionally immune to retribution as your leader. The only one I can think of is ASM, and usually people take Miles and then tack on
Anymore,
ASM
yeah.
underneath them.
People do run anymore.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Namor is a leader. He does do that with a card. But I mean, it's pretty rare to just have just to start your squad with a safe mid grab. It's a little different than the safe mid grabs we're used to, but it might be arguably better, just because you can get out on the midpoint and be contesting something and force them to move 2 bodies up there at that point if they want any part of
Awesome
getting a point.
on demons, right? Because they're
Yes.
forcing them to commit 2 bodies
Yes.
incinerated.
And you are immune to incinerate as Mephisto.
Although with Mephisto's leadership, everybody ends up getting incinerated pretty quickly.
There's a lot of fire going around.
There's a lot of fire going on.
And I mean, if the entire team is incinerated and you don't have a target for they don't have a target for the incinerate, that's a good thing for you, right?
Yeah, because then they're not getting
You're
powered,
okay.
right?
I mean, their whole team's on fire. That's good.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we'll just kind of go around the horn. Alex, any kind of closing thoughts on either of the 2 new hotnesses that we've been thinking about?
I'm excited for both. Obviously, Apocalypse because I'm digging him, but Mephisto, it's they're bringing new things to the game. I feel just instead of just like here's a monster. They're fancy. They can do some damage and that's it. Not to say anything in particular recently is like that, but I mean they're bringing new things to the game that I feel is interesting. Dracula is a little bit too with his affiliation, but not as much as those two. So I think they're bringing some good stuff to the game, and I'm just excited for the future with them.
JD, how about you?
Yeah, I'm really digging APOC. I think there's something there. I do need to get more reps. I need to figure out what I'm taking to LVO. It might be APOC. I need reps into stuff that I haven't gotten reps because nobody local plays them, and I don't really like TTS that much. So maybe I'll be able to corner some people and tell them to play some stuff into me. What'd you say, David?
We need a stress test.
Yeah, I need to get more reps into Asgard. Probably into Shield. And then probably a little bit of Hellfire and Webs just in case. And just random stuff, I guess. But I guess that's a problem with just playing locally is you're just at the mercy of whatever your local meta. Mephisto looks fun. I think I don't know if I'll be putting a Mephisto list together anytime soon, but it does look fun. I like the open-endedness of those Hellfire type leaderships. Although I don't really.
PR man, I know you are. He feels so good.
And then the other hotness, the monsters. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm still not sure how I feel about Drac and his leadership, but none of us have gotten Drac games, so we can't really talk about it.
I mean, I played Drac as a character.
Yeah. I mean, Drac's fine. Drac's good. He can be a little sad if you can just pepper him at range 4. He just is a sitting duck, and if you spike, he's just gone because 7 health is a decent amount, but he has no DR. He's got, I mean, There's nothing he can do, and if you're throwing energy attacks at him, it's even worse. He can just he can melt. He can melt. I do like him though.
Any closing
Yeah,
kind of closing thoughts from you, David?
I mean, hey, for the listeners, play APOC, play monsters, play whatever, play the stuff. I mean, Mephisto's fun. I'm pretty sure we'll put our rosters in the show notes so you guys
Yeah.
can see them and
Yep,
maybe
all the rosters.
play around with them, mix and match, throw in some characters you want to play with, use that as a jumping off point to build your own kind of thing, which
Yeah,
all good too.
all three, both JP and Alex's Apocalypse rosters and David's Mephisto rosters, we'll all have them in the show notes, so you can take a look at them. We'd love to hear what you guys are doing with these characters, if you're doing something different with them, or if you've gone into them and you've seen something different or you've seen some challenges. We'd love to hear about it. So you can reach us on all the socials at Witty Bantercast. You can email us at wittybantercast@gmail.com. And you can support us and help us out at patreon.com/wittybanter. Help us keep the lights on, and as well as get some additional benefits. We'd also really would appreciate it, and this doesn't cost you anything, if you could like us, if you could rate us, if you could review us. Those things really do make a difference in terms of other people being able to find us and us being able to grow the audience. So if you could do that for us, we'd really appreciate it. So other than that, webheads, we're looking forward to hearing from you soon. Until then, be good.